be recording this session. As Andy has already just started, thank you. And we'll go ahead and get started here in just one moment. If everybody can please mute yourselves, that would be great. Andy, whenever you're ready to start.
Good afternoon, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andy Moon. I work for University Information Technology. My group is responsible for basically everything having to do with Office 365, among other things. And so I'm just here to talk a little bit about some of the things that you can do with Teams. Obviously, we've been using virtual meetings for a while now, so y'all may already be aware of some of the things that I'm going to be showing. But I just wanted to make sure and kind of highlight some of the cool stuff that's there that every now and then get overlooked. So y'all should be, oh, there we go, seeing my screen now. And so this is what it looks like when you're in a Teams call. I'm mostly going to be focusing on the things that you can do when you're in a Teams meeting, as opposed to all the other stuff that you can do with Teams. If you'd like an extensive discussion about how to use all the other stuff in Teams, please reach out anytime. I'm more than happy to help. I do have a regular meeting that I have on Fridays at 2 in the afternoon, office hours, where we just talk about whatever it is that the community wants to talk about. But this is what a general Teams meeting looks like. And y'all all have your videos off, and that's fine if you don't want to be recorded. I get that. But there are a number of buttons. Hey, how you doing, Wiley? So there are a number of buttons along here that you've got in your Teams client. So I can bring up the participants list, and the participants list is going to show me all the people that are in my meeting. And it also gives me a breakdown of who is a presenter versus who is an attendee. Now, you may not have seen this before because most of our Teams meet. Yes.
Can't see your screen if you're sharing it.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Anybody else? That's weird. It says that I'm sharing, but let me try that again. And go. Now are y'all seeing my screen?
Yes.
All right. There we go. So along the top here, like I said, that first button is our participants pane, which will bring up over here on the right. If you've just been doing general meetings in Teams, you may not have seen the distinction between presenters and attendees. You do have the ability to set the permissions on your meeting so that only certain people can present. Now, presenters will be able to do things like share their screen, mute other people, remove other people from the meeting. So, especially in an educational environment, you may not want them to be able to do that. And that's where the attendees comes in. So as you can see, we've got myself, Seth, Brisa, and Shanika are all set so that they can present, which means they can do all that other stuff. They can go in here and using the more actions ellipses, by the way, just as an aside, anywhere in the Office 365 interface that you see those three dots, that's a menu of some kind, and you're not going to hurt anything by dropping down the menu. You can see that I can pin somebody to my screen, and I'll go ahead and do that for mine. And oh no, pin will make sure and put them up on your screen. I can spotlight. Unfortunately, spotlight doesn't appear the same way on the recording as it does in the meeting itself. So I don't use it as much, but you can, that way you can spotlight just a particular person, maybe somebody who's doing a presentation. Also, at the top of the participants pane, we have some permissions for things like not allowing attendees to unmute. So if I have an issue where somebody is coming off a mute and I mean, it could be anything from just, noise in the background to, inappropriate stuff. Maybe they've got Pulp Fiction on the television in the background, and that's a little bit that can be a little bit distracting and inappropriate. But one of the other options that I would have here, if I were the person who created this meeting, is I'll also have the ability to download the participants list. And maybe we can get Brisa to show her screen. I'm pretty sure she's the one that, or maybe Seth is the one that created this. Maybe we can get him to share his screen and show that participants download for a second.
I actually have not used that participant download, so this is a good learning tool for me.
Great. I love learning by doing. So if you'll share your screen with us and go to the participants pane.
Okay.
Hey, Sharon.
Hi.
Hey, Andy, there was a question in the chat you may be able to answer while Seth is doing that.
Can you invite external users to a Teams meeting, or must it be Zoom instead? Yes, absolutely. You can invite external users. Now, I'll caution you that there's a difference between where those meetings are created. So if the meeting is created on my calendar, so either in Outlook or Teams directly on the calendar, you can just send somebody a link to that meeting and they'll be able to join right up. If it is a meeting that is held inside a team, in a Teams channel, then the people who attend that meeting will have to be team members. So it creates another couple of steps that you have to go through to get them in the meeting. So if you're going to invite external people, my suggestion is have somebody create that meeting on their calendar rather than inside a team, and that way you don't have to invite them to the team and get them to accept and that kind of thing. But if I just so I've got there we go. So on my calendar, there we go. I've got this meeting, and all I have to do is send this join Microsoft Teams meeting link to somebody, and it really doesn't matter whether they're a UH employee or affiliated with the university in any way. They'll be able to join that. All right, so it looks like we've got Seth sharing his screen. So if you go up to the participants pane, yep, there you go. Let's go ahead and click on the participants. There you go. Well, maybe. No. Come on, participants. Yeah, and Leslie mentions that she creates a large percentage of her team meetings directly through Outlook. Absolutely, you can create them in Outlook or in Teams. And then the more actions ellipses up at the top to the right of where it says participants. There you go. And so we've got download attendance list. So that's going to download an Excel spreadsheet to your computer that will list all of the people who joined the meeting. It will also show when they left the meeting. So you'll get those joins and leaves for the entire meeting. Now, I recommend that you wait until the very end of the meeting to download that, and that way you'll have the full attendance list. And it's very important that you download that before you leave the meeting. They're looking at enhancements to the participants report eventually. Right now that it's set for February. Keep sharing there. I'm going to have you show off one more option there here in a minute.
Okay.
So definitely download that at the end of your meeting, because once the meeting ends, the participant list goes away right now. That's an enhancement that is supposed to come later, but where we can download them anytime. And then the other thing that you can do with the more actions ellipses on the participants list is you can manage the permissions. Now, there's a little different behavior. You can go ahead and click on that. And it may have, for you, Seth, it may have fired a a web browser, did it?
Yes.
Okay. And you may have just been sharing your screen. So
Yeah.
if you want to share your whole desktop, then we can see what those options are. So James, while Seth is sharing that, James asks if external people join a meeting, do they need to download Teams, or is there a web application? There's absolutely a web application like Zoom. So if they prefer to join in a browser, they're welcome to do that. You tend to get a few more options if you are in the full Teams environment. So here's what the meeting options or the meeting permissions look like. So from there, we can set who can bypass the lobby. The options there are going to be people in my organization, everyone, and only me. So if you want to make people have to sit in a lobby, you can't set that. I like to set that to people in my organization a lot, because that way anybody that's got a CougarNet account just joins right on in. Anybody who does not have a CougarNet account, they actually sit in a lobby where it says you'll be allowed in soon. And then somebody in the meeting, a presenter, will have to actually click on an accept button in the meeting to let them into the actual meeting itself. I like to set that to people in my organization because that way, if they come in as a guest for some reason, and I expect them to be in as a full user, then I can let them know. Oh, okay. Well, let's see. Tracy came in as a guest for some reason. So I can accept you in the meeting, and then I know to say, hey, Tracy, didn't look like you were logged in with your CougarNet account. And if you want full meeting functionality, you might want to go ahead and log in. But that also, the lobby also gives kind of a holding area where, if you wanted to have, kind of a meeting amongst just your presenters to start, or if you wanted to just allow certain people in, it gives you a way to kind of control who can and can't come into your meeting. The callers bypass the lobby is for people that dial in using a phone. We can announce when callers join or leave. That's set to yes by default. And then the who can present is where I showed you that you could control who's allowed to share their screen and do things like mute people or remove people from the meeting. Right now it's set to specific people, and it's set to Brisa, myself, Iggy, I assume Seth. Well, Seth's the owner, so he can do it anyway, and Shanika. If you pull down that drop-down menu, the default is to allow everyone to present, and that's generally the Teams meeting that we're used to, where everybody can share the screen. People in my organization, I can, that way guests, people that come in without logging in won't be able to take over my presentation. Specific people lets me designate who can do that, or only me if I'm, that's, really good for instructors if they're the only one that's going to be able to share the screen. And then a new option that we got is allowing attendees to unmute. So if we want to make sure and keep the attendees silent, we can just turn that off and say no, and then they won't be able to unmute themselves, which is very much like the don't allow attendees to unmute option that I showed just a couple of minutes ago. Sharon asks if only the organizer can download the participants list. Yes, at present, they're the only person that can download the participants list. And once you get it down into Excel, you can kind of organize it any way that you like, but that's not something that happens automatically. So it's not like the Excel has any information about who they are beyond their name, whoever they logged in as. I'm going to go ahead and take this screen share back over because I'm a control freak and I just have to have that control. For those of you who know me, that's just so not the case. So that's the participants pane. Those are the options that we've got there. course, I do have the ability to mute all. From here, I can invite somebody, and I can just do that by name. So I type their name, or I type their CougarNet ID, and I can just basically ring somebody. It's going to ring in Teams for them. Or I can get join information that copies to my clipboard so that then I can paste it somewhere. The second button here is our conversation button. That's where we've been getting our questions, and that is just stored here, and it's basically like any other chat. Now, one of the things I really love about Teams meeting chats is that they do end up getting stored and continue to be available through the chat feature in Teams. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of depth on this, but as we can see, there's the same chat that we have here in the meeting. And that way I can go back and find where we chatted about this or that or the other thing. I can search for those chats. It's really quite a cool feature. Of course, the raise your hand button will raise your hand. If you see a little red number there, that shows you how many people's hands are raised. You can see that right now mine is. So I'm going to go ahead and put my hand down. That's really good for questions, especially in a situation where you're setting the attendees to not be able to unmute. We might want them to be able to raise their hand so that they can ask questions. Of course, the buttons here turn the camera off if I don't want to show myself, or unmute myself. So these are both toggles that will toggle your camera on or off, turn your microphone on or off. And then this guy is the sharing options. I'm not going to click that because that'll stop my screen sharing, but that's where you can go ahead and share content from your screen. Quick tip. Whenever I share my screen, I always share the one that, and again, I can't really show it here, but it pops up all the way to the left. It says desktop screen number 1. That way, if I switch back and forth between different applications, I don't have to change that screen share. I don't have to, share Internet Explorer when I was sharing Teams. If I share my whole desktop, I can switch between applications and my screen share will show all that stuff. Some other things, we've got device settings so that we can choose what mic or speakers we're using. Meeting details will just show me information about the meeting, when it's scheduled, give me the join information so that I can copy it to my clipboard. Then we've got different options. So I've got my, right now I'm in gallery mode, which is going to show me a 3x3 grid of the folks that are in the meeting. Together mode will show me the video of everybody who's got video on, as if we're sitting in an auditorium or an audience of some kind. For what it's worth, this is the same technology that they used for the virtual fans during the NBA, the end of the NBA season. So if we had more people, the auditorium would expand and we'd have more seats available. One of the options that you can see is not available at present is large gallery. The reason it's not available is because I don't have more than 9 people with their video on. If we did, then large gallery would become available and I could have up to a 7x7 grid. There we go. Now we've got some people turning their cameras on. Then I'd have up to a 7x7 grid of videos. So that allows me to have 49 people on my screen at the same time. They're kind of tiny little postage stamps of people. But, it's certainly better than nothing. There we go. We're getting some folks in here. All right. And if we get more than 9, I'll go ahead and show off the large gallery mode. I do have the ability to apply background effects. So y'all probably saw in my video that I am, oh, there's Jim. I like Jim McGee. That's a cool cat there. You probably saw the background of the E. Cullen fountain that I had. I have a whole bunch of background images. I also have them in OneDrive. So if you want a whole bunch of background images from the university, I'd be more than happy to share those with you. So applying background effects, just turn on your background effects. There are a whole bunch of them that are there by default, but then as I said, I've got a bunch from UH. The public art department at UH gave me a bunch of these, and you can see I've got Houston Rockets and various other ones available to me. So let's see, we've got 3, 6, 10. So I should have large gallery mode. There we go.
Is it normal for it to freeze like this? Because I've tried it before when in meetings. And is it normal for it to kind of freeze and delay?
So no, it shouldn't freeze and delay. My Teams crashed is what happened there. But my large gallery is now active since we had enough people join. So you can see that now I've got slightly more than a 3x3 grid. I do have 10 people on the screen now, and that's what the large gallery mode does for me. One of the new things that's available is live captions. So if I turn on live captions, then there we go. It's going to show what I'm saying. This is a little distracting for me, which is why I usually don't turn it on. But in addition, it also has attribution now. So I can see that I'm the one who said all this stuff. And if anybody else popped in and said something, ...
Me popping in and saying something.
There you go. So now we know who actually came in and said that. So that's kind of a nice little feature there.
How did you turn that on again?
That is in the more actions ellipses and turn on live captions. Again, it's a toggle. Right now it is on, and if I turn it off, then it turns off. That has nothing to do with the transcript that will eventually be generated if you are recording a meeting. That happens automatically out of Teams meetings. It's not directly related, but it's one of those features that you can turn on. Of course, I can stop recording, which I won't do because, well, we're planning on using this later. Eventually, we'll be able to use the dial pad to dial a phone number, but that's not something that we've got connected right now. This is actually a very useful and the very option there. If you're in a low bandwidth situation, so for whatever reason you're at, for me it would be I'm at my parents' house and they have really, really slow internet. Then I can turn off my incoming video, and that way Teams can just concentrate on bringing in the audio or the screen sharing or whatever other content might be in that meeting. And that way it's not having to process all that video and bring that into me, which really does improve meeting performance pretty dramatically. So I really like the turn off incoming video option, especially if I'm on my phone. If I'm in a meeting on my iPhone, I'll turn off incoming video almost every time, just because that means that I'll be able to hear people and my phone isn't trying to display their video for everything. So those are our main meeting options. Now, if I don't think that anybody's going to be left in this boat, but if you don't see your toolbar along the top here, if instead for some reason you see it in the middle of the screen, there is a new Teams meeting experience that you can turn on. And it's if I go to my profile picture in Teams and I say I want to look at settings, it's just this checkbox for turn on new meeting experience. Then you will have to completely quit Teams, which is not intuitive. You'll actually want to right click on your taskbar and say quit, because if you just hit the X button, it won't actually quit Teams. But once you turn on that new meeting experience and quit and restart Teams, you should get those new options, which would include large gallery mode, together mode, and move your toolbar up here to the top. So those are kind of the highlights of the team's meeting experience. I'd love to handle some questions if anybody has any.
Hi, this is Sharon. I put a question in chat, and we're going to have a large event coming up. Students won't be able to chat live or anything, but I've been in meetings where there's that filtering process whereby all of the questions don't go, are not seen. They go to, somebody who has to be the producer who then pushes through whatever questions they want shown. But I wasn't sure whether or not all of those questions are captured or only those that are allowed to pass through to visible chat.
Okay, and when you say captured, do you mean displayed to the producers or how?
Well, you were saying that we can, like how you can save the chat from a meeting.
Right.
And so I wasn't sure that when that chat is saved, is it going to save all of the questions that came through chat, or will it only show those questions that got passed through to be visible?
So live events stores things in kind of a different way. It doesn't display all those questions. All right. So when questions come in from the audience in a live event, they go to a Q&A section that only the producers and presenters have access to. But the producers and presenters can then publish those questions out to the audience, and that way they can be answered right there in the live event, or you can type an answer to it right there in the Q&A. But for the most part, the questions just come in and are only seen by producers and presenters. And I just went and looked. The only thing that ends up in my chat over here from a live event is, in this case, it was the chat between the producers and the presenters. So that live event didn't actually pop that in. I believe that you can download the questions and answers from a live event, but it's not going to populate into chat the same way.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Then we also had, are there polling capabilities within Teams? So I know that that's one of the things that they're looking at adding, and I know that you can do a lot of some polling stuff from within the team. But if you wanted to do polling and things like that, the easiest way, at least in my opinion, is just with Microsoft Forms. So I would create a form. Then you can post the link to the form there in the chat, and you can have people fill out that form and poll, ask whatever questions they want to you want to ask of them. It's not as streamlined as maybe I would like, but that's one of those things that they've at least said that they're working on making improvements to. And if you have more questions about Microsoft Forms or how to do polling that way, please reach out anytime. Happy to help. Spectacularly simple. It's really not difficult to use at all. If you have a large group and one of the participants is unruly, can you, as the presenter, disconnect them? Yes, absolutely. Would you like me to use you as an example, Leslie? So if we've got an unruly participant, I do have the ability as a presenter to remove from the meeting. And again, that's just going to be off of the more actions ellipses that's attached to each one of the users that's in my participants list. So if I wanted to remove them, I just click on that and I say remove them from the meeting. Now, this does not necessarily keep them from rejoining the meeting. and that's another place where the lobby might be a good option to have, because if you don't want them to be able to come back into the meeting and it's set where we just allow anyone to bypass the lobby, then we're a little limited. But those options can be changed in the middle of the meeting. So if it just kind of was happening over and over again, you'd be able to go ahead and change those options and say, we're going to make people sit in the lobby and be admitted. So yes, I do have the ability to remove people from the meeting, and then using some of the other permissions options, we can even keep them from coming back into the meeting if we need to, if they're truly, obnoxious. What other questions can I answer? I got a chat. Let's see. Can anyone allow people in from the lobby like in Skype? So it's not just the organizer, which is actually kind of nice. It's any participant will have the ability to let people in from the lobby. So anybody who, or I'm sorry, any presenter will be able to let them in from the lobby. Attendees will not be able to do so. But anybody who's listed as a presenter will be able to admit somebody from the lobby. All it does is it pops up a little dialogue, a little box that says, this person's name is waiting in the lobby, and there's an admit or a deny button. You just click the appropriate button and let them in.
This is Sharon. I placed my question in chat, but I'll go ahead and ask it. The event I have coming up will be middle and high school students, and so they will not be allowed to chat. Their faces won't be shown. They won't speak. They'll be viewing a video, basically. But I wanted to give it a feel somehow of them interacting. So I was going to, maybe record some students asking the question and, and that kind of thing. I was just trying to think of what other, kind of techniques or things that might be used to simulate more engagement than just watching something.
Yeah, that's probably one of the best ones that I can think of, is have them record the questions and answers. Now, one thing that you can do with a stream recording, so anytime that you record something in Teams, it automatically gets uploaded to stream. And once it is there in stream, you can do things like attach forms to the presentation or to the video itself at a certain point. So you could say, all right, we're going to watch the video up until, 2 minutes and 18 seconds. And then I'm going to pop up a form to ask them about what, their opinion is, or what their experience is, or, and that way they're actually giving you feedback while they're watching the video, or they're answering questions or doing a quiz or whatever that activity that you want to use is. And so it's not direct activity, but since it's asynchronous and everybody has access to it, well, it ends up being a consistent experience regardless of, whether the student watched it during the middle of the school day or, at 10 o'clock at night.
I like it. Thank you.
So that would be another way that you can kind of engage them, and it's not just all sitting and watching me talk.
Thank you so much.
Which can sometimes be interesting, but most of the time, All right. What else we got?
Anybody else have any more questions for Andy?
I know that we're we're right at the end of the time. Again, if you do end up with any questions about anything having to do with Teams or meetings or anything in Office 365, don't ever hesitate to reach out. I'm really easy to get a hold of. In fact, Andy at uh.edu will do it, believe it or not.
Hey, Andy.
Yes.
I have a question for you that may be useful to the group. When you're sharing a PowerPoint presentation, I know in a previous event staff council did that there was, one part of it showed your notes, if you have notes in your presentation. Sure. Is there anything you can share so that when people are sharing a presentation, that it's just the presentation, anything along those lines? Does that make sense?
Sure. So the specific feature of PowerPoint, and I do a PowerPoint presentation every week, so I'll just bring that one up. So I do the IT portion of new hire orientation every week. And one of the options that we've got in the slideshow section here is, I thought it was in the slideshow section here. Let's see. Maybe not. So one of my options is to use the.
I think it may be under view, Andy.
Is it view? That's.
I think it may be. I'm trying to remember.
Because
Because that was one of the things that we were trying to get it to not do.
Right. And I had that asked of me recently, and I found the option, and now it is eluding me. I could have sworn it was. I could have sworn it was on the slideshow screen.
It might be.
Maybe I had.
You did something right there.
Yeah, I just turned on the slideshow. Oh, there it is. So it's this use presenter view, and I'm not actually sure why it's not giving me the option to use it. Maybe it needs the update, but the presenter view here will let me, let's see. We'll basically choose whether I'm going to see that that notes screen and that kind of thing. So let's see if I can get one that'll show it for me. Come on. Monitor primary. Nope. Slideshow. Why am I not getting the presenter view ability? All right. Well, so yes, if you did not want the note screen to come up at all, you would just clear this use presenter view option. And let me see if I can find another PowerPoint presentation that will give me that ability.
Willie had said that you should be able to play the slideshow from the beginning, and it should be at the top. I don't.
Okay. So slideshow. For some reason, this one is letting me do that. So if I do use presenter view and say from beginning, so what I've got two screens. So what you're seeing on my share here is the notes screen. So if I wanted to show just the presentation and not the notes screen, then I would make sure to share out the screen that has the presentation as opposed to the one that has the notes screen. But it's actually showing both. It's showing the presentation on my other one. So if I do this, let's see if I can make it come over to, there we go. Or is it gonna just show me? Yeah, so I would just basically what I do is I make sure that I'm sharing the screen that's going to show the presentation as opposed to the one that's showing my notes. And you can turn off those the note screen altogether by turning off use presenter view here. So play slideshow from the beginning and it should be at the top. Let's see. Oh, this is the wrong one. So one of my favorite things to do is play around with technology. So this is right in my wheelhouse. All right, so let's see if that does it. All right, so slideshow, I don't have presenter view from beginning. I don't have the option on the top. Oh, okay. I told it to go to full screen and then it brought up the notes. Interesting. So it must, I guess it was set to go in a window. And when it was set to go into a window rather than full screen, it took off it removed the ability to do presenter view. Interesting. But I kind of like the note screen. One of the other things that it provides is a view of the next slide so that I can keep, in mind what I've got coming up next in addition to what I've got. There we go. Okay, so on the display settings, I can swap the presenter view and the slideshow view. And that way, if I happen to have shared the wrong screen, I can just swap them as I need to. I can choose whether or not I show my taskbar. But that's my, so full screen does that. Interesting. What else we got?
I think that is it. If there are no more questions, we will go ahead and wrap it up. We thank everybody for joining us for the smaller breakout room session discussing Microsoft Teams. We thank Andy for taking time out of his day to go over some important facts and helping us to learn this program a little bit better. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to either Andy or myself, and I can forward those questions on to him, and we can get a response back to you. Again, thank y'all for joining us today, and we're going to go ahead and end this session.
And as he's turning off the recording, I did put a link to my